John Breech, CBS Sports, kind enough to join us. John, how are you?
Doing fantastic. How are you guys doing?
Really good.
Better than Justin Herbert after he got knocked around last night.
For sure.
Yeah, that's painful. Hey, we were just talking about that. So you could have hit him with a roughing the passer. The ball was starting to fumble before he took the shot. Kind of walk us through that play and not just the play, but the impact.
Yeah, I mean, that really felt like a huge difference in the game because that could have been a 15-yard penalty if you do take a shot to the head. But it just felt like that kind of epitomized everything that the Chargers were going through in that game. Justin Herbert just got hit so many times. And as a quarterback, if you don't have time to throw, even the fastest releases at 2 seconds maybe, and Justin Herbert had people in his face at all times. And it was painful. I was getting hurt just watching him get hit. But when your offensive line, the Chargers have obviously dealt with so many injuries this year, Rashawn Slater, Joe Alt, and somehow they kind of bandaged it together and hobbled their way to the playoffs. But the Patriots just had a defense that was able to expose all those issues that the Chargers have had. And that was really kind of the story of the game there. It was just Justin Herbert taking hit after hit after hit after hit.
So I think a lot of us on the Patriots, myself included, and I'm a Broncos fan, so I can lump them in together. I think all of us have been watching the Patriots and Broncos throughout the year, being like, it's going to fall apart. It's going to fall apart. This isn't sustainable. But the Patriots go and they beat the Raiders, and they beat the Chargers, and then Denver's got the number 1 seed. Which of those two teams do you have more faith in going and making a run in the AFC?
Well, I agree with you. It does feel like that both of these teams kind of feel like a house of cards just waiting to crumble down, and that will happen at some point. And you look at the Patriots kind of lucked out with the perfect draw in the wild card round with a beat-up Chargers team, and now they're either going to face the Texans or the Steelers, and so it gets a little bit more interesting. I would say if the Texans win tonight, that's going to be a tough matchup for the Patriots because they haven't seen a defense that good really all year. And then obviously the Broncos have a tough matchup with the Bills, but Bills only getting 5 days of rest before going in there. The Broncos coming off a bye, so this certainly be fresher. But I don't know which one is going to go further. I don't think either of them is going to get to the Super Bowl. So maybe one of them gets to the AFC title game, but I see both of them going down at some point before we get to the Super Bowl.
Man, we've had some dramatic matchups. Saturday was incredible. The Rams-Panthers going down to the wire. Bears-Packers going down to the wire. To this point, what's been your favorite game? What's captivated your mind the most?
I thought the Rams-Panthers was the most surprise. Obviously, tons of drama with the Bears and Packers and tons of drama with 49ers-Eagles. But just because the Rams-Panthers game was so unexpected, you had a Rams team that lost to Carolina back in November, so you knew they weren't going to be overlooking them. They knew the Panthers were tough. They knew they could give them a game. And somehow Carolina still came out and had a 4-point lead with 2 minutes left. So I just thought that was absolutely stunning, and that Matthew Stafford really looked average for most of the game. And, granted, he did sprain his finger, and that definitely didn't help things. But for him, and we had all the MVP talk all season, for him to come up in the clutch on that final drive and then throw a touchdown pass with just, 38 seconds left, that's what you have to do in the playoffs. You have to come up and make the big plays. And I thought that was the most entertaining game just because it was the most kind of unexpected.
We talk about teams like the Chargers that were just beat to hell. The 49ers have dealt with injuries as much as anybody, if not more, the entire season, but yet they're still able to get a victory. Kittle's, rips up the Achilles, so his season is done. How sustainable is what we've seen Kyle Shanahan put together there in San Francisco?
Yeah, it is really like they're a house of cards held together by Band-Aids because of all the injuries. But I think the 49ers are kind of that model of the NFL's this whole entire next man up mentality. If someone gets injured, you got to have someone step in, and we're going to move on, and we're going to win games. And the 49ers have done that, which is really impressive because you'll see injuries derail an entire season. I mean, look at the Bengals. Joe Burrow goes down. They miss the playoffs. The 49ers lose Brock Purdy. They throw Mac Jones in there, and they keep chugging along. So what Kyle Shanahan has done has been impressive. And you look at the game yesterday, George Kittle goes down, and now they need someone else to step up and catch passes. If Demarcus Robinson go in there and go over 100 yards, catch a touchdown pass, and that's what you need. Kyle Juszczyk had 4 catches. So it was just that all of these guys that maybe normally wouldn't be role players in that offense step up when a guy goes down. And for that to happen just every week, no matter how many injuries they suffer, I really think speaks volumes to the kind of job Shanahan has done. Now, the Seahawks this week obviously going to be a lot tougher matchup. I'll be surprised if they win that one. But even if they lose, I think it's an impressive season for the 49ers considering everything that's happened.
So we're kind of a Puka Nacua territory here in Utah, and he has 10 catches, 111 yards, and a touchdown in that win over Carolina. Can you put into terms how big Puka's been this season as a receiver and how much of this Rams push to success has been on his shoulders?
Oh, it's been all Puka. I think that if you took him out of that offense, his chemistry with Matthew Stafford is almost like what Stafford had with Calvin Johnson when he was in Detroit. Calvin Johnson is in the Hall of Fame right now, and you're seeing Puka put up these crazy numbers when he has a rocket-armed quarterback and he opens up everything they do on offense, whether that's running the ball with Kyron Williams, whether that's Devontae Adams being able to draw one-on-one coverage once they get inside the 5-yard line and making these short touchdown catches. That's all because every defense is worried about Puka Nacua. And the fact that these teams are focusing on him and he's still able to put up these huge numbers. I mean, it's not just going over 100 yards against the Panthers. He went over 200 yards against the Seahawks in that Thursday night game. So he has big games in big spots where sometimes players don't always come up big when they need to. But it just seems like that every time the Rams need him, he is there. And he's such a key part of that offense. And if he were to get banged up or injured or something where he wasn't there, that offense would take such a huge step back. So really, what he's done and the fact that he fell to the 5th round in the draft a couple years ago, just totally stunning. I mean, he's a top 3 receiver in the NFL, and you could certainly make a case for him being the number 1 overall receiver.
If you're the general manager or president of the Packers, what are you doing with Matt LaFleur?
That's a difficult one because I get why Packers fans might be thinking, hey, look, he can't win playoff games. There's just this tendency where the Packers blow up in the 4th quarter, and you get a little bit frustrated with that when you see your coach. I mean, Andy Reid, earlier in his career, there was just his time management, his game management, he just seemed a little bit off, and he couldn't win those big playoff games. Then Patrick Mahomes got there, and he started winning Super Bowls. So I think that the Packers maybe start to feel a little bit that way about Matt LaFleur, but I think when you look around the NFL, it is hard to justify getting rid of a coach of that caliber. So I'm not sure I would sign him to a 5-year extension because I would want to know, I would want him to prove that he can win these big games, but I don't think I would get rid of him. I think an extension probably makes the most sense.
I was texting back and forth with the guy that was around Jordan Love in college, and let me just read some of these because I think it's pretty spot on. He said, Jordan Love is so good and yet also so terrible. It's like there's either up or down. You never know what you're going to get there.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the truth, the hot and cold quarterbacks where you don't know who's going to show up. Are you going to get the guy who looks like an MVP candidate, or are you going to get the guy who melts down and doesn't do much, which there's a couple games where Jordan Love almost pulls no-shows and doesn't put up big numbers. You know, he threw 4 touchdown passes against the Bears, but then he barely completed 50% of his passes. So it's a weird dynamic with him, and maybe he needs someone. Maybe you hire a QB coach or bring someone in to kind of help figure that out because his game is so inconsistent. At times he looks like a top 7 quarterback in the NFL. And then there's other times where you're thinking, man, this guy doesn't even look like a top 20 quarterback. And we saw both those guys in that Bears game on Saturday night. So, yeah, that's absolutely the truth. I think just watching if Jordan Love could play 4 quarters of good football every week, the Packers would be impossible to beat.
I'll tell you what, watching all these games, I started to really think about and miss an era of quarterback play in the NFL with all the greats from Tom Brady. You know, I guess you could go back quite a couple more years, go to Peyton Manning and you go into the Matt Ryans and the Drew Breeses, and you had this nice run and era. You go to even go Aaron Rodgers, who's, I guess he's got one more shot coming up tonight. But this crazy era of great quarterback play, and it just feels like this is a complete changeover. You're watching guys like Drake May and guys like Matt Stafford that have been around for a while, and they've had a couple good years, but now it's their show. It's Trevor Lawrence's show. It's Caleb Williams' show. It's Bo Nix's show. It's Justin Herbert's show. I would have thought that it would hurt it, but we were talking about NFL ratings. Like, it's never been healthier, has it?
No, I mean, everybody is watching right now. The NFL's never been more popular, but it is interesting to see kind of the torch passing between that prior era of quarterbacks and what we're in now. I do feel like Matthew Stafford, he's the dinosaur now. He's kind of the last of those classic pocket passers. He's 37 years old. We don't know how many more years he's going to be playing. And then we've kind of flipped over to every quarterback needs to have some mobility to their game, so you don't have a lot of those classic pocket passers anymore. Brock Purdy's probably in there, but even he's mobile. Joe Burrow's probably in there. But you do have these younger guys who can run around. I mean, Josh Allen versus Bo Nix in the divisional round is a great example of that, or Jalen Hurts winning a Super Bowl last year. And so it does feel like the quarterback dynamic has totally changed. And because of the way offensive coordinators are designing their offenses, the way quarterbacks also learn in college, it doesn't feel like we're ever really going to go back to just the classic pocket passers. I think there will be, every few years, there'll be that guy that comes along, someone like Burrow. But for the most part, the future at the quarterback position are guys who are mobile, guys who can throw, and the dual threat guys who can win you games with their arm and their legs.
All right, I've told Lloyd I've actually been excited to get you on because I want to ask you this question because I think you're one of the few people that can answer this question correctly. Your dad, longtime kicker for the Cincinnati Bengals. What does he say about this world of kickers where a 55-yard field goal now is a chip shot in the NFL?
Well, it's crazy because we text all the time, especially, Cam Little goes out and hits a 68-yard field goal. I have my dad texting me before the ball even goes through the uprights. And I'll just say he is in absolute awe of what these kickers are able to do now. Because back in his day, he kicked from 1979 to 1992. I think there were only 2 or 3 field goals over 60 yards in that whole span by anyone. And now you're getting 5 a year. And so with the kickers, they're just so much more athletic. And they're limber, they're stronger, they can kick further, and then obviously you had a little rule change this year, so the footballs are a little bit softer, a little bit easier to kick, and so now you have just created this situation where teams are in field goal range as soon as they get to the 50-yard line. And when you add that to the fact that a touchback goes out to the 35-yard line, teams only have to go 15, 20 yards to be in field goal range. So it's really kind of completely changed what teams are doing, especially if you have a Cam Little or a Brandon Aubrey or someone who can consistently hit from beyond 60 yards. So it is a wild dynamic that has been created with all these great kickers.
Yeah, we have 2 missed extra points in a single game last night. Was that 49ers Eagles? I'm trying to remember the 2 missed extra points.
Well, not yet. Yeah, Jake Elliott missed one, and that was a big one, obviously, because that was a 23-20 game. If he hits that, the Eagles only need to get a field goal toward the end. And then, Brandon McManus had a total meltdown against the Bears, 2 missed field goals, a missed extra point. Obviously, all of those were costly. And so look, once you get to the playoffs, there's no way to kind of replicate the pressure of a playoff kick. You never know what you're going to get from a kicker in the playoffs. Brandon McManus had only missed 1 postseason kick in his entire life, and he missed 3 in the same game. Cam Little missed the 54-yard field goal right before that bizarre halftime stuff in Jacksonville. He hit 67-68 during the season, but you put a rookie or a second-year kicker in his first playoff game of his career, and he misses a kick that he would usually make. So watching a kicker kick in the postseason, to me, is just interesting because there is so much pressure, and you never know how it's going to go.
Can A.J. Brown return to Philadelphia, or is that marriage got unsolvable differences there?
And this feels like if you called your wife fat. It just feels like it's over. You're done. The divorce is happening. So I think that A.J. Brown, I would have a hard time seeing them resolve their differences. I mean, it's not just what happened against the 49ers. You have A.J. Brown kind of yelling at Sirianni on the sideline, but that's been going on all year. It seems like every other week there was some sort of drama with A.J. Brown complaining about the offense or yelling at someone on the sideline. It just seems like he doesn't want to be there anymore. So I would be surprised if he returns to Philly.
How does this game work out tonight?
Look, I don't want to bet against Aaron Rodgers because the Texans defense is great, top defense in the NFL. But if you are going to be able to move the ball against them, I think one thing you need is a smart quarterback who has seen everything, and that is Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, they have DK Metcalf back in the lineup for the first time in 2 weeks, so I think that gives the Steelers a chance. And the Steelers haven't lost a Monday night home game since 1991, and so just little things like that. Like, I understand why they're the underdog, but that makes me want to pick Pittsburgh. But I do think the Texans' defense is just too good. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, and the Texans probably win by 3. I'll say 19-16 Houston.
Well, we appreciate your time. Thanks for hanging out with us as always, and enjoy this next round. Let's do it again soon.
Great stuff, John.
Yep, thanks for having me, guys.
That is John Breech, CBS Sports, right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Do you miss that golden era of QBs that I was going through?
A little bit.
Remember, we were talking about it as it was kind of wrapping up, and we were saying, I think at that time there was 5, maybe 6 Hall of Famers that were rocking and rolling at one point.
Yeah.
And to see them all go,